Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cocktails and Rocktails with me, your most notorious groupie, Alice Rouse, author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie. That's right. And these other little ebooks here, you guys, go down in that description because that's where you can find my merchandise, my ebooks, my paper, my hard copy, everything. Patreon, everything, you guys. Go down in that description. Support the channel. And you guys, the easy, free way to support the channel, would you guys please watch a commercial or two? Especially if you're binge watching. Just do one commercial every other channel. Because that supports the channel. It takes no effort. And it's free. And thank you guys for those of you who do. And everybody for being here, really. Because you guys know how much I love the community here. And how awesome I think everybody is. And welcome to the new people, to the new musicians that I'm meeting. To all kinds of people, the other groupies, everybody that is coming to this channel. What a freaking great community. I absolutely love it. And today, you guys, we're going to do another reading for my book. Because I'm going to, like I said, I enjoy doing this because it kind of gives me a chance to really hear the book again, but it also has people who might have been negatively affected by their idea of how I was saying and what I was saying, gives people actually more of an insight and perspective of how I'm really saying it and I'm not a total asshole. So, and today's cocktail, you guys, because it's getting springtime out, I decided to make a nice little milky shake. This is an amaretto vanilla bean with some hot cocoa mix. Kind of a drinky drink, frozen hot chocolate. So everybody, grab your chocolate beans, kick up your feet, and let's have a cocktail rocktail. Cheers, big ears. So good, and you guys know I'm going to swallow that any day over Kip Winger. If you know the story, you know. And speaking of Kip Winger shots, the shot glasses are coming. You guys have a really cute idea. Thank you guys for all the awesome ideas. Okay, so today's reading from my book, I'm going to talk about the last couple weeks of Salt Lake City, where Kristen and I, Danny was already down in California at this point with her musician boyfriend, so it was just Kristen and I left on the scene, really. It was just she and I. And it wasn't just the end of our scene. It was really a changing time for groupies altogether. And the scene becoming something different because of public opinion and what was said in front of a camera, but what was actually going on behind the camera. So, we're going to talk about our last 2 weeks in Salt Lake City. This is chapter 11. Turn out the lights, the party's over. Because that's a song. And this is 1994, right before Kristen and I were moving up to Seattle. So we're not going to do the whole chapter. We're just going to do this particular part. So it's one thing. Sorry, guys, let me start that over. It's one thing to be there at the beginning of an era, but it can be a whole different thing when you are there for the end of one, even if it does go unnoticed to the rest of the world. While I would carry the old school groupie torch with me for years to come, the backstage world as we knew it was about to come to a slow death. The end would be signaled by the demolition of our groupie castle, the Salt Palace. The new arena, the Delta Center, now known as the Vivint Center, had a pit where the buses parked. And this pit was 3 stories down. And they jokingly said this when they were building the Delta Center. We need to keep the groupies away from the band. Sweetie, do you not know they have a whole hotel bar where they roam free through the lobby and stuff? You can't keep groupies away from the band. We just learned how to rappel. Okay, anyway. 20 feet down, it was actually 30, making the sidewalk standing a thing of the past. It was supposedly meant to ward off the likes of us, but being the devoted backstage chicks we were, you know we didn't go out that easy. Ozzy, Aerosmith, and Jackal, and a couple others, we had figured it out in 5 seconds flat at the first few concerts. The groupies of Salt Lake City would go out with the same bang we had come into this rock and roll haven with. A big, fat, debaucherous one. Danny had now gone to SoCal with her musician boyfriend, pretty much leaving Kristen, Marie, and I to finish off what we had started so many years ago. But Kristen was about to be a goner as well. She had met and fallen for a man while in Seattle, and now the idea was to move there. She didn't want to go it alone, and I was surely up for the adventure because that's me. I always joke that I don't go on vacation, I just move. And that's one of the things that made it so cool with rock and roll for me, because it was an adventure. You never knew, when you were going to get a phone call. Like you guys, I was demonstrated the day I got the phone call last time Oris was in town. So rock and roll is always a big adventure, and traveling is a huge part of that. And going back to Seattle a second time, fuck yeah, I was all about it. Okay, I had liked it once before, so why not give it another chance? Not to mention, the new wave of grunge rockers all actually still lived there at the time. That was the clincher for me. Go to the haven where rock stars live? You bet your ass. Be at my beck and call. Because that's what rock stars and groupies do with each other. It's not meant to be rude. All right. I don't remember much of the beginning of this year for some reason. I had quit the strip club I worked for after a change in politics. In club politics. I had some money saved and a couple of feature shows booked that could tide me over quite nicely. However, before Kay and I could be the last to vacate our groupie wonderland, there had to be a good send-off. I am not sure where it all started because I smoked a lot, hung with a slew of rockers, and did some drinking back then. Kristen and I had looked about to see who was coming during the last 2 weeks of March as we were going in April to our new city. It seemed that we had a band in town just about every other night for 2 weeks, ending with the last show I can remember at the Salt Palace, the Scorpions. Yeah, or was that at the Delta Center? Anyway, I think White Zombie was about, and this was when I was with Phil again. Rafters held a going-away party for Kristen and I, which including some smaller national acts we had hung with as the entertainment. So they, like, this bar that we hung out with that had a lot of cool 80s rockers, they basically threw us a going-away party. And they booked the whole upstairs. They booked, like, a few national acts that we had known and hung out with. Like, they paid for all this to come in and give us a going-away party, because that's what groupies were to Salt Lake City. All right. It seemed the universe had set it up for Kristen to have one hell of a last shout before committing herself to a man outside of the rock and roll arena. In the end, Kristen and I decided to have a no-holds-barred last 2 weeks. The only plan was to stay out of jail and off the news. Otherwise, all bets were off. But to start, I will bring back the roadie I had pissed off just months earlier by sneaking off with Dave gone. Yet again, I would torture his poor little East Coast ego unintentionally. Now, you guys, I've already done this video. I'll put the link here so you guys can watch this part, because this part is actually quite a few pages long, so I'm going to skip over what I've already done on it. Kristen Aguilera, home that night, blah, blah, blah. Kristen and Singer barely. Okay. Okay, so not to let this night rain on our parade of goodbyes, Kristen and I went off to the next band without a thought of the last. Typo Negative was playing the Zephyr, and luckily, I had met them before and had a friend working for the tour. I had met them in New York with Marie when we ditched Def Leppard. Of course, Kristen and I were going to make a night of it all, as we did. We did every night for that 2 weeks. I'm serious. We did. There were so many bands. So many bands. We arrived and were sucked right into the band's bus by my friend. It was just Kristen, he and I. We smoked and relaxed, mixed some drinks, and let our hair down a little. She and I also found gothically hot lead singer Peter Steele's leather gloves on the table in the front lounge. My friend and I each grabbed one and slid it onto our hands. I slid the glove down between my legs, jokingly, that I would leave it for the sexy singer to find. A couple of the other band members showed up with their now former drummer, Sal, who was in the opening band Life of Agony. Hey! I knew Sal. Marie and I had met these boys while in our New York City haze, and I had had a serious liaison with this drummer boy after one night at the Limelight. The night was looking up, and even more so as the tour bus door swung slowly open, revealing the tall drink of water that was the late and great Peter Steele. Kristen and I stopped and stared as if he were Bo Derek running down the beach. Sex in a 6-foot-plus stick. He was. Peter Steele was hot, and he was such a sweetheart. He was just like this really kind, sweet man. And apparently psychic, too. As he said hello to Kristen and I, he sat right across from me in the little front lounge booth. His gloves lingered down below his eyes, which were now drifting to the leather pile. He grabbed the glove I had on and pulled it onto his big hand. Kind of like OJ did. But this one fit. Well, we know that one fit too. Anyway, he looked at it for a second before sliding it beneath his nose and sniffing. Nice to see you again, Allison, Peter said stealthily as he stared right into my eyes. How the hell had he known what I did earlier was beyond my roadie friend, Kristen and I? We eerily laughed and went about our drinking. Somehow, the plan became to have she and I come on stage for one of their songs, Christian Woman and Black Number 1. Yep, I don't know how this... It was a tiny stage, too. This was going to be tricky because, number one, the stage inside the club was small and didn't yield very much extra room. Also, I wasn't wearing any knickers underneath my long black dress, which I'd forgot about. When we went on stage and they played the song, I kicked a leg up onto Peter's waiting hand and bent backwards while he ran his hand up my leg, revealing more as he went. Well, he revealed just enough to make the front row go buggy-eyed. Great. But like I wasn't used to showing off naked on stage already. It was my job after all. But that move would cause Sal to get all territorial on me and tag me after the show. Because as we know, rock stars, they do get a little territorial. I didn't mind. He was fun once and was again that night. Mostly because he was the last guy I did the upside-down tour bus trick with. He was. Sal, the drummer of Life and Agony, he got the last ever upside-down tour bus trick. I said it was the end of an era. Might as well go out might as well go out with a bang, even if it is upside down. Oh, Slut Lake City. And I halfway showed it to everyone in the front of the tour bus before Sal accosted me to the back lounge. After that, the new buses no longer had escape hatches on the ceilings, making it impossible to do it again. So, failure to design tour buses for groupies as well as the rock stars, that became the issue. That is so good, you guys. I hope you're having a nice, creamy time with me. Oh well, I didn't cry about it for long because the Scorpions were playing. Kristen and I went to the show and claimed our passes, but not any band in particular. I don't even remember who was opening for them. I had seen Klaus, and we had nice chat before I made my way to the side of the stage so I could enjoy the show. As I came around to stage right, if you are on it, I saw a man with long, thick, dark hair. He was Far Eastern Indian, with a British accent and a roadie for the band. Huh. He was nice. He was a little nice specimen. Oh, Let me say that correctly. He was a nice little specimen and didn't have any intentions of I didn't have any intentions of actually being with Klaus again that night. I got on with him from the second he approached me, and we exchanged numbers immediately. This is the roadie. I actually took his since Kristen and I were leaving Salt Lake City in a matter of 48 hours. But we did swap spit and a couple of other things before the night was over, and would for another year to come. Actually, longer than a year. Yeah, I know, you're asking, why a roadie when there were plenty of rockers? Because I could, and he was hot, and the chemistry was great. Trust me, roadies are just as cool as the rockers and have more stories. Plus, they get just as hot girls because of their lifestyle and jobs. It's true. Look at some of their wives. Rock and roll is not discriminating. Blah, blah, blah. Rock and roll is not discriminating when it comes to bedfellows. Even if I was. And that was that. After that Scorp show, Kristen and I walked out of the palace for the last time. I took a loose piece of old concrete and cried all the way home. But crying would have to wait. Kristen and I needed to get the truck packed and sent on its way with the drivers. We pulled out of Salt Lake City in her Bronco and never looked back. We didn't have anything to look back on. We had done it all and set the standards in the land of groupie fantasy. We had upped the bar and taken it further than most others had the balls to. Kristen, Danny, and I had ruled the scene and gone about our way when it was time. And times they were a-changing, as I would be so confronted with after moving to the Emerald City. So that was that. That was Kristen and I's last couple weeks. That was actually just the last week. So, and it was really crazy because you guys, it was, like I said, and I've shown before, and I'll show at the beginning of this video, Chris Holmes jumping in the pool in the movie Decline as Western Civilization, saying the best groupies are in Salt Lake City. And it was true. This is why when you look back on those tour schedules, there is 2 and 3 days off, at least 1 day off in Salt Lake City consistently with every band. Because like I said, it was our own little utopia. Nobody would thought Salt Lake City was this wild place, so we had this privacy to do it here. Nobody would have thought, that it's a beautiful place, that us groupies actually did things like doing the Alpine slide and making this whole camaraderie and all these memories and all this rock and roll history that happened here in Salt Lake City. When Kristen and I left, literally, the door was slammed. Because nobody, the musicians, the roadies, the other groupies who came through town, they did not have anybody to call anymore. They didn't have anybody to hang out with. So that was it. That was the end of the era. So I hope you guys really enjoyed today's reading. I'm getting better at reading and not being so choppy. You guys, I really appreciate all the love and support here. Everything, enjoying everything. And let me know how you're liking my series of reading down in the description. The last one didn't get a lot of action, so do kind of want to get your guys' opinion. And you guys, don't forget, just watch one commercial. If you're binge watching on every other video, watch one commercial. It's free. It literally takes 1 minute. And it supports the channel. So you don't have to do anything. You just get up, go to the bathroom, come back. I will be right here. So you guys, again, thank you for all the love. Let's keep growing this channel. Let's keep getting me out there and dispelling the old Hollywood fairy tale bullshit of rock and roll. All right? So hit that description, hit the like button, hit my bells, and we'll see you next time on Cocktails and Rocktails. Cheers, big ears.